Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to go over the step-by-step process of filing an extension. And the extension that I am talking about is this particular form, Form 4868, and I'll have it up on the screen as I'm going over it. But we're going to talk about filling out Form 4868. And this is actually a form that you would use if you feel like you're going to be unable to make the April 15th deadline to file your Form 1040. I'm only looking at individual tax returns. So business returns and extensions, I'm not going to go over that, but this is just for individual tax returns. So Form 4868 is due by April 15th, 2024. You can file that return either manually, and if you file it manually, on the back of the Form 4868, it will tell you, let me see if I can find it here. It will tell you where you can actually file that return. So if you look at the back of the return, it will show you where you can file that return manually. The thing about filing it manually is that you have to have it in by midnight, April 15th, 2024. If it is after April 15th, 2024 at midnight, then you will begin to receive an assessment for late filing, and that is called a late filing penalty. I'll show, there's a video and I'll put it here that you can click on, and it'll go over all the penalties and interest and so forth. But what we're going to do right now is just talk about the step-by-step process to filling out Form 4868 and filing your federal extension for your individual tax return. So the first thing I want to talk about is, where do you pull the data to come up with your estimated tax payment? Well, let's back up. So if we're looking at this form, we see here that the first thing is showing that you put your name, your address, of course, city and state and zip code. And it's also requesting that you put your social security numbers. If you're filing single, it's just one social security number. If you're filing with your spouse, then that number is also required. Also remember, however you filed your tax return, put that social security first, and then put whomever comes second. So just mirror what you did on your federal tax form. Now, if we look over here, we're at the next box, and this is actually box, I have to look at it, box 4. And box 4 is trying to come up with your estimated tax liability. And this is the most important number on the return, because that tells the IRS whether or not you owe money. And if you owe money on your extension, theoretically, you're supposed to pay it as you're filing this extension. Most people, like I said in my other video, most people do not pay their tax liability when they file their extension. Some people believe that the extension is not only giving them time to file, but also giving them time to pay. So the extension is only for filing, not for paying. So just kind of keep that separate. So now if we go here and we look at box 4, and it's talking about how do you come up with this estimate. This is your liability. So I'm going to kind of walk through it and give you some ideas, just real simple ideas, because you don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, because you're going to go in and do this on your actual tax return. And some people say, well, hey, if I do all this work, I might as well just file the tax return. That is correct. But if there's certain documents that you have not received and you can't go in and apply the calculations to come up with this estimate, then it's better to come up with the basic documents that you do have and then file the extension, and then later go in and put all the other information in your actual tax return and file that. So what we're going to do is, first of all, and I'll put all this up on the screen, you will receive a W-2. And the W-2 will show you in box 1 your income. So that is your income that you received. And then box 2 will show the federal taxes withheld. Those are the two numbers that you're going to be using to prepare your estimate. Now, some people will also get a Form 1099. And this is when you're pretty much in business for yourself. I'm not going to really go over the business part, but if you're filing an individual tax return and you have a small business, that information is reported on Schedule C within the whole, all the forms that you report that roll up to the Form 1040. We're not going to do that, but what I do want to let you know is that if you have this form, and this is Form 1099, miscellaneous, if you have taxes withheld, you can use those taxes to go in and come up with your estimate. And you would also use your income. So that kind of gives you an idea, a rough idea of what you're looking at tax-wise. But just wanted to denote that. But we're basically going to look at the W-2 form only. So I'm going to have it up on the screen. So once again, like I said, the W-2, we have income and we have your tax withholding, your federal tax withholding. Now, what happens is that you go in and you pull, and the best way to do it, and I kind of go over the 1040. The 1040 is going to go in and you're going to put here your, you're going to put in your total amount of income from your W-2. So you see that. So you're going to put in your total amount of income from your W-2. And per the W-2 that we're using as an example, and you'll see it up here, we're showing that your income is $98,500. So that is your total income. So now what we do with that when we're creating this estimate is that we have to go in and reduce that so that we can see what your actual taxable income is. What I will tell you is that on this form, there's standard deduction. And the way that the government has gone in and increased the standard deductions versus what we used to call itemized deductions, it is more than likely everybody is using standard deductions now instead of itemized deductions. I don't want to go into that. That's a whole nother animal. But if you look here on the side of your 1040, you will see that the standard deduction for a single person is $13,850. So that is the standard deduction for a single person. The standard deduction for married is $27,700. And you see that, $27,700. So what's happening is that we're going to go in and just create an estimate and see if we have a tax liability. Now, this particular form, I just kind of went in and did some calcs. And so this will be up on the screen as I'm talking. But we're going to look at the single person and we're going to look at the married person. And I'm going to use the same W-2 for single and for married. So initially we showed $98,500 for income for, let's say, the single person first. And you're looking at my sheet. Where I've actually done the calculations. As you can see, I went in and reduced that by the standard deduction of $13,850. And then that leaves us with income of $84,650. So now we have to go in and pull what they call the tax brackets. So this form here, and I'll put this on the screen as well, is showing the tax bracket for someone that's single that made $84,650. So we're in that yellow area. And that yellow area is basically showing us what amount of taxes will be due on that amount of income. So looking at the screen, I put it up on the screen. You see that the first amount that is going to be assessed, it's going to be the $5,147. And then anything over and above that $44,726 will be taxed at a 22%. So as you can see, that 22% comes to $8,783.50. When you add that $5,147 plus the $8,783.50, it brings you to a total amount of tax due of $13,930.50. When we go back to the W-2, we can see here that we withheld $15,000. So if I go back to the sheet where I'm doing the calc, you'll see that the W-2 withholding was $15,000. The difference of what you're actually due and what you actually paid in is $1,069.50, which means that in essence, you're getting a refund. So when we look at the form 4868, we look at this box and it says, and it's box 4, and it says, what is your estimated tax liability? If you are receiving a refund or if there's an overpayment, that box is 0. You place 0 in that box. Now let's look at the married filing joint and do the same calculation for it. So we're going to start out once again with the W-2. And as you can see on the W-2, I'm going to use the same exact one. We're looking at $98,500 and we're looking at a withholding, federal withholding of $15,000. So once again, I'm going to go in and I'm going to put my $98,500 income, and we go back to the 1040 and we look at the standard deduction over here on the side for married filing joint. And that amount is $27,700. So we're going to go ahead and reduce our income by that $27,700. So you'll see it on the calc sheet. I have it on the screen. So we go in from there and we say, okay, so now we're looking at income of $70,800. Now let's turn our attention to the married filing joint tax table. And if you look at this tax table, you can see that if your income is $70,800, and I'll put this up on the screen. So if you look at the tax table, you'll see that the initial amount is $2,200 plus 12% over $22,000. So if you're looking at my form here, you'll see where I went in and reduced the tax by $22,000, which left me with $48,800, and I apply the 12% to that $48,800. So what we're looking at is the initial $2,200 plus the 12%, which is $5,856. And you add those two amounts together and it comes to $8,056. Once again, we went in and we withheld, and I'll pull it back up again just for reference. We withheld $15,000. So if we go back to our form, that $15,000, the difference would be a refund of $6,944. So once again, you're getting a refund. So with a refund on this particular form, form 4868, in this particular box, because it is a refund, you would put in 0. So there is no taxable liability. From there, you go in and just kind of go all the way down, 0, 0, 0, because you're not going to have a balance. The only time this 2023 total payments is that if we had some money that was due, say your withholding was less than $15,000, say it was only $6,000, then you would show a liability. If you made some payments in 2023, estimated tax payments, you would go in and put that amount in, which would reduce your liability. So that's where that comes into play. After that, you go in and you check that you are, as they say, check here if you're out of the country. And you can check that. And if you check that you're out of the country, then you are given an additional 2 months to file your tax return. It's like, you know, you don't have to file until June, I think, 17th. And then box 9 is saying check if you, and it says if you file form 1040 NR, which is non-residents, and did not receive wages as an employee subject to U.S. income tax. So you would check that box. So this is pretty much simple. This is how you fill out Form 4868. Once again, if you fill it out manually, then definitely make sure that you comply and mail it to the actual address here on the back. It will tell you where you should mail it based on where you're located. Make sure that you submit or put it in the post office and have it postmarked by midnight, April 15th, 2024. And that way you will not be assessed failure to file penalty. The easiest way is to go to irs.gov and e-file your 4868 form. It is free. So you can go in and pull up Form 4868, go to, like I said, irs.gov, go to their initial page, and it'll show you where you can go in, complete your Form 4868, and e-file it for free. So if you have any other questions, please hit me below in the comment section. I'm going to go ahead and put the video that I just did that went over all the penalties and interest and that's applicable when filing your tax return late and filing an extension or paying late or not filing timely. So check that out. I hope that this has helped you in some way. Once again, if it is something that you find, I guess, useful, please like, comment, and most definitely subscribe. I will be coming back. I might do something else dealing with taxes. I just don't want to get too in depth because me being a CPA, there are certain questions that are applicable to just your taxable situation. So I don't want to kind of give a general kind of knowledge because not everything that is for one person will be for another. So I don't want to mislead you. But with that, once again, it is so good being here. And I will talk with you guys soon. Bye.